Yeah. I included all the meals and entertainment receipts. Oh, hey there. Welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett. If you've ever listened to the show or never listened to the show before, in addition to providing you with entertaining and informative photography-related information, I also go on adventures with the crew of the Starship Fibonacci. I'm currently in the process of calculating my intergalactic space taxes. They're due a couple weeks after my taxes on Earth. The government sure do take a bite. It's just part of the business of being a photographer. It's not all glamorous photo shoots and traveling to exotic locations. Speaking of which, on this episode of the podcast, I speak with photographer Francesco Sapienza about the behind the scenes parts of being a photographer. You know, the unglamorous stuff like doing the books and advertising and client management that most people don't see. Things that you may want to know before you choose to go into photography as a business. And if you're already in the industry, it's good to know that you're not the only one dealing with these things. Stuff like telling people that while they're here, they should be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave reviews and tell their friends, because that stuff really helps the show. You know, that sort of thing. Be sure to stay tuned for that conversation with Francesco right after the break. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Do wormhole access fees count as travel? You're really not moving. You're folding space. Hey there, nerds. The Nerdy Photographer has a brand new website, and with it, we've created a resources page where you can find all sorts of things to help you in your photographic journey, from contract templates to website hosting to web design services to printing. It's all in there. Be sure to go out and check out nerdyphotographer.com/resources. That's nerdyphotographer.com/resources. Hello, and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett, and I'm here today with food photographer and just all-around good person, Francesco Sapienza. Welcome.
Thank you. So we're done, right?
That's it. We've already been talking for a while.
All around good person. That's all I needed.
Before we get into our main conversation, I'm going to do the dice breaker. Let's see a little. All right. I've put in a new thing for people who listen all the time. I've actually created a new list with some new questions in the dice breaker so that people lead us in different directions. We got a 16, and today is, what animal would you use to describe your approach to work, Francesco?
Ooh. I think I go more toward a cheetah.
Okay. Big jungle cat
versus, or maybe,
or fast.
Yeah, definitely a cheetah. Yeah,
fast and efficient.
Yeah, I would say so.
Interesting.
I didn't think too much about it. It just came out, and now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, actually, yeah. And if you miss the prey, you miss the prey, and just
you have to
stop
go back
running.
Yeah,
yeah.
Have to wait for the next shot. Yeah. That's an interesting way of looking at it. We were talking before I hit record a lot about our various things that sort of hang us up in the grind of being a photographer, and I think this is like where we're going. But it's like a lot of people don't see. I guess if you're on Instagram, you see a little bit of it. Maybe I love behind the scenes videos. They don't really show you behind the scenes. It's usually like, here's 5 seconds of my photo shoot, and then here's the pictures. Like that's all it takes. Or I love the time lapse videos of people editing that make people who aren't photographers think like, oh, this will take you 10 minutes to do this. What was probably a 3-hour job of somebody who's a master Photoshop user. That took them 3 hours to do it, but they whittled it down into 30 seconds, and people are like, oh, it shouldn't take you very long to do that. They don't understand like the work that goes into the job of being a photographer, as opposed to what they see. They only get to see the shutter clicking, and you get to see the picture. There's a lot more that goes into it. In your day-to-day life, it's a big part of. It's not all taking pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think is like the biggest grind in your part of in what you do as a photographer? For me, I would say it is it's got to be a tie between editing and getting clients. I think getting clients is probably actually the biggest. There's a lot of things that go into that, like between blogging, social media, doing the actual meetings, things like that. That the putting out there is like such a time commitment that doesn't have anything to do with taking pictures. Really, for me, this is the biggest time chunk out of my day on a regular basis. How about you?
Yeah, that definitely. So we share definitely one, the outreach, the what is the world, what am I sharing with the world, and or a specific part of the world, saying
Right.
that you're directing yourself to specific customers in different ways, and you can
Right.
do that in a ton of ways. Then there's a more general outreach that is like sharing with the world, and then it would be more typical social media stuff. That's definitely one, and we can dig into that a little bit more if you want. I think there's all those small aspects of things that, for me, it also varies quite a lot, because my state of mind changes clearly, as for any human being.
Yeah.
And then there are things that becomes heavy, very very heavy, that maybe are not that heavy, but I just don't feel like doing them.
Right.
And I've been fighting with those things, say that, hey, you need to do your bookkeeping, like maybe not every month, but like a couple of times a year you need to do it. And it's so hard. And before I kind of you know force myself and power through, and feeling miserable, because it's like, oh, such a drag. It's like, and now I kind of switch a little bit perspective on the entire thing. I have a friend who was actually the photographer who actually hired me as an assistant many years ago. And he talks about energy, and how you should try and allocate your energy in the best possible way for that moment, without, of course, losing track of the things that have, like, you have a deadline.
Right.
But even if there's so much time that we waste on things, that even if you have that deadline, you could probably waste less time on other stuff, and do something really fun for you before you do, and put 110% on delivering whatever the deadline is. It might be, a tax return, or it might be photos that you hate, you don't want to retouch. And I've noticed that by being aware of, okay, I don't feel like doing this. Is there something that I really want to do now that I can actually do in a little time, and then
In a
it's
better
going to put
mood.
me in a better mood and then I feel like, oh, okay, cool. I got my, piece of candy, and I did
Yeah.
what I wanted to do for that hour, half an hour, even 10 minutes. Like, even I just want to be on YouTube for 10 minutes and do nothing. I just feel like doing that. And then everything changes, because then I say, okay, now I need to start running.
Yeah.
So this approach has helped me a lot, and I think that's been in the past year maybe, and being aware of how you spend your time, and see how much time you waste on certain things.
Yeah.
And you feel like you have no time, and then you waste an hour, maybe 3 minutes there, 3 minutes here, 3 minutes doing nothing. So
I,
just that awareness, I think, has been fantastic.
it's something that I've known that I do for a long time. And I think also in the last couple of years, I've tried to be, I go through phases of being able to deal with it better than other times. But I think became more active in my time management in the last few years, because I was really noticing that there were times where I would lose an entire afternoon. I'd be sitting there working on one thing, and I'd find myself just like I'm bouncing between answering emails and doing something else, and then now I'm looking up a YouTube tutorial on how to do this thing, which is some other project that I'm going to be doing tomorrow. But I'm like, I can just watch it now, and it's more about focusing in and saying like, I'm going to do this. And one of the best things, and this is an audio podcast and I don't do video for it, so I'm going to describe this for people, and I'm going to show it to you though, is I got one of these little clocks where I can set it like up to an hour, and it shows me like, this is set to an hour, and then like it counts down, you can set that for yourself. So
Okay.
it's much more about time management on a particular project. Like if I say I'm going to do something that I really want to do that's like fun, whatever, but I've got 15 minutes to do that.
Yeah.
So I'll set it to 15 minutes, or I say like I've got to spend some time today cleaning my office. So I'll set that. I don't have to do the whole thing today because I think that's where I would get
Yeah.
bogged down. I would pick these projects where I think, okay, this needs to get done, or like you're saying, like bookkeeping. I don't have to do it all now, but I need to do it at some point. And the uh the thing was like for me was breaking it down into smaller, more digestible chunks.
Okay.
I'm going to do half an hour every day this week. By the end of the week, I'll be done so that I don't sit there and like try to spend, an entire afternoon on it and feeling like I got nothing. This is productive. This is stuff that I need to do, whether it's taxes or whatever it is. Like there are things that I need to accomplish, but there's just this feeling like if I spend an entire day doing it, like I didn't get anything else done.
Mhm.
Whereas if I like do it in more digestible pieces, I feel like I'm more productive in that 45 minutes or an hour, as opposed to saying like I'm just going to spend my entire afternoon doing this and get it all done today. And it's also allows me to be kinder to myself that I didn't finish it. Like it's okay. I'm coming back to it tomorrow. I'm going to spend some more time on it tomorrow. I'm going to chip away at it. I'm going to get it done by the end of the week or whatever. So I sort of set that deadline for myself, and I'm like, this is how much time I can spend it because there are so many tasks that we do as
Yeah.
photographers on the business side of it, especially if you're a solopreneur, whatever, like you're a sole proprietor, you do this all, you're the only person, we were talking about this before we started recording too. Like I'm the only person who does this podcast and runs the Nerdy Photographer website as well as my photography business. It's just me because I can't delegate anything. Um, that's my fault. But in doing that, I need to manage that time very well and finding whatever trick works for you is really helpful um, in managing all of those tasks.
I think absolutely that's absolutely true. I think your job is trying to find out what makes you do things and and you can take inspiration from other people. Of course that helps, but then it needs to work for you because it's highly individual. There's the way we feel about these things, and it's our it's our baby. It's yes work, but is it really just work?
No.
It's like no, it's not. And so it's I think it's really important that you're aware of that, and then just even how you function is pretty important to be
Yeah.
aware of how you function. And so I mean we get lost in the talk there, but yeah, taxes for sure, bookkeeping. Oh
It's the
my,
minutia of all of
yeah,
this stuff.
the,
It's
the minutia
following up.
exactly.
Yeah, like if I sit here and I keep getting, but if I don't give myself like a set amount of time to say like I'm going to answer emails in this half an hour, then I'm not going to answer emails for like until later in the afternoon or whatever time. Because if I just sit there and try to keep like stopping whatever task, like if I'm editing, for example, if I'm editing and I just keep bouncing out of editing to answer, one email here and then another email in 15 minutes, it's a mess. Like you can
Yeah.
just like, okay, I'm going to answer emails at 4 o'clock or whatever it is. I'm going to answer them in the morning, first thing, going to go through my emails, answer my emails, get it out of the way. Then I'll check them again in the afternoon. Save so much time, like going back and forth. And like, then you get out of your groove in doing whatever other task
Yeah.
that you've set for yourself.
And of course, the moment you don't do that and you actually decide to bounce from one task to the other, you always feel like, oh no, but there might be an important email. So
Right.
I have to do it now. So there's always an excuse to do it so that you feel good about what you're doing. And
Right.
that's the part where you need to be aware of what you're doing. And I think that's the hardest
Yeah, I think it's
part.
nice. Like I get the notification, and if unless it's like new inquiry, I'm like, okay, not checking it. Like there's a reason I put that as the like the subject line for my uh on my
You have a form
contact. Yeah,
online.
my online
Yeah.
form. Like the subject line when it comes to me is new inquiry. That's the only time I'm like gonna break out of whatever I'm doing because get back to them as quickly as possible. Then I'll go back to
Yeah.
work. That's my one exception. Otherwise, it's like it can wait until my 2 times a day that I answer 3 times. I might go at lunch while I'm eating my lunch. I might like glance through my
Yeah.
emails and see if there's something important that I need to answer. But otherwise, it's like like it's about finding balance. And there's just so much that I think I don't know, finding the balance in life and running your own business is so difficult. I mean, I don't think it's just photographers. I know other people who run their own businesses, but like trying to like when you start out, especially, you're learning a lot of stuff. But like I used to like stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Got to work on the website. Got to work on I got to edit this stuff. I got to whatever. And like it's bad. It's not good for you. You lose a lot of your life to that stuff unless and you feel I don't know. You feel like you start to resent your job a little bit when it takes over so much of what you do in your like of your time during the day. You only have time is the most precious like commodity, and it's really hard. I don't know about you, but like you can tell me how you feel about this. But like for me, one of the things was as a wedding photographer, I would lose a lot of time on the weekends to working on weddings. In the summer and like when friends and family were going and doing things, like I couldn't go because I'm working. So then when it came down to like when people are available during the week, I have to like make myself available to see other people because otherwise, we never get to see each other.
Absolutely. No, that I mean that becomes a lot more complicated when you have your own family that you're also responsible for. In the first case, it's just socially speaking, you want to see your friends, you love them, you want to see your family. But I think it goes to the next level
That's beyond me.
somebody's actually dependent on you, and I think that's where things can get even messier. But I don't even know if like can you really as as a solopreneur or somebody who's just a one-man band, can you really talk about life and work? I don't think I can. It's like it's all intertwined to me. It's like and especially for us visual people, I think it becomes even more intertwined and difficult to. I don't even know that I want to try and separate. Of course, you want to set aside time and just stop thinking about business and photos because now I'm with my kids, and
Right.
that's I think really important. But then the fact that everybody's asleep, I'm up, and maybe I'm just brushing my teeth, and then I realize maybe I should change this on my website. Maybe I should do that, and I start doing that, or even just the idea coming. You can't control when the ideas come. So in that sense, I think that talking about life and work balance, or whatever you want to call it, is I'm not even trying to find that. I'm trying to be like at peace with my decisions and how I decide to spend my time.
Well, you have to be in the end.
Exactly, because that's the only thing that can make you feel okay. I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm allocating the time that I think is needed for this and that. And go ahead.
I don't have kids. So that is a level of time juggling that I'm not familiar with, and so I my guess would be, and you can tell me whether I'm wrong here, is you have to find the moments where you can think about work. So if you're thinking about those things, like just like okay, I have to like do this because I have the moment. It's like it's always when I've had to take care of someone else's kids or whatever that siblings or other family members, whatever, who's left me in charge of their children for the short periods of time that they have. It's been like you rest or you do your thing that you have to while they're resting, depending on the age. But when you have the time available to do those things, you have to do them. So I'm sure it is a far trickier like tightrope to walk when you have kids, and it's just it's a lot of work for me without having to incorporate that level of outside commitment outside of work commitment to the time. So I mean, I can't imagine trying to run a business for me. That's just how I am. I know that I would lose my mind.
On the other hand, I have to say that sometimes my wife and I look at each other in the eyes, maybe after a very long day, and we're so tired. Maybe there were tantrums and stuff, and sick children, and all that, and they're like, "We thought we were busy before having kids. What were we doing?
What were we doing with our time?"
Yeah, it's like it's unbelievable. But on the other hand, I think that my efficiency has gone up. It's like through the roof because suddenly, no, I
Yeah,
can't be on Facebook. I can't be on Facebook for 45 minutes.
right. You can't
I
lose
can't.
yourself in those sort of like mundane activities that you're just sort of like, I'm just
So,
going to sit here and scroll through
so,
social media for an hour. You can't do it.
so I don't know how much less time. I think that definitely there is less time for sure. But I think that it's almost more the perception that you're not really free to decide certain things anymore,
Right.
rather than the actual number of minutes that you have in the day that are available to you.
Yeah.
Because at the end you become such a cheetah.
Yeah. Coming
that
right back around to that. Yeah, you have to be fast.
and I think that you realize that as years pass, but I remember thinking, oh my god, I'll never be able to do this, and it's anxiety and all those things, and then you realize that you need to just review your life and how you spend time and how you decide to allocate time, and just almost start from scratch. The thing is, you've had 20, 30, 40, in my case 47 years without that,
right.
Which means that you're very rooted into habits,
your schedules and
things,
habits and things, how you do things,
and how you do things. You can decide. Yeah, you might have a yoga class that you need to attend. You need to you need to fit the schedule, but apart that's your decision to do that. Otherwise, you're totally free. I think that's the only real challenge. I think just and it takes time, I promise you, before you really let go. And it's like, that part I cannot change. I cannot change if a child is sick, has a flu, and he wakes up, maybe not even in the middle of the night, just in the morning, and he cannot go to school. That part you cannot change, and takes a lot of work, a lot of effort to just adapt and say, okay, how do we make this work? I think that it's all up here.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of unselfish behavior that has to occur there. That's sort of like you have to think outside of yourself and make those decisions. Like I have a dog. It's just nothing like having a kid. In some ways, there's like very minor similarities. Minor. I'm not comparing the two, but like there's things like when I have to be gone at a job during the day, like if I'm doing a corporate gig, I live in New Jersey. I do a lot of corporate stuff in Manhattan and New York City. I know how long it takes me to get there. I know like how long approximately I'm going to be at the job. I have to balance the fact like, okay, I need to find like much like childcare in a way is like, what am I doing with the dog? I have a very high energy dog, so it's not like I can't just leave her home all day long in a cage. Um, Am I sending her to daycare? Am I like having someone come to let her out, play with her, whatever? And when do I need to be back by? So it's a balancing act in that sense, which is even that I'm like, okay, I have to do that, and I don't have a kid. Like it's so I can only imagine what it's like you said, that you wake up and all of a sudden they're sick, and your plans kind of go out the window, and you have to, you know, figure everything else out. And what are you going to do? It's a lot of work, and it's one of those things that I think that people going into who are considering getting into the business of photography, not just as like I like taking pictures, but like I want to do this for a living, don't consider these sort of unglamorous things about the profession, like how much time, like we had said before, about how much time you spend doing all these things that are not the taking pictures. It's the time management and the bookkeeping and all these things are sort of pile up, and you have to think about, are you getting into this when you have kids, and like how much time are you going to be able to devote outside of your familial obligations to this, or like I made, and it's part of the reason I started this podcast was to pass along wisdom to people to not make the mistakes that I made um, when I was younger, and made a lot of wrong decisions about starting a business. I basically had no idea how to run a business, really, and I was just like, I can do this. This should be easy. Like I started, like I was a, professional photographer in the sense that people were paying me money to do jobs for a couple of years before I got into weddings. And that's when I think the business part of it really took off because I had to advertise. Before weddings, I was doing like headshots for actors because I was an actor. I knew a lot of musicians. I was doing photos for bands and live shows. So I was like, that's where my business side of things came from. And I was making, a moderate amount of money. Um, it was one of a couple of jobs that I had other than acting, which was also paying me money. Um, but I didn't really have to think about the business side of it and like the getting new work because I wasn't concerned by like this wasn't my full time job. And then when the weddings came along and I really got into those, I was like, I really have to work at getting more of these. And I thought like, how tough is this going to be? I'm going to be working on the weekend. That's it. And then I was like, oh no, I'm going to be spending it's a lot more editing time. And this was back before Lightroom even existed. And it was just like, you get hundreds and hundreds of photos from a wedding and you're like, oh, like how long is this going to take me to edit all this stuff? So I was definitely that person who was ill informed about how much there was to this on the professional side of it, as opposed to doing it from more of a semi pro or hobbyist uh, perspective. There's just so much that's going into it. And I think that there is a glamorization of the profession. I don't know how you feel about that. I think
Absolutely.
there's
Absolutely.
there's just people like kind of look at it. Oh, you're just having so much fun. You're just doing photo shoots all the time. That's got to be like so fun. And I'm like, yeah, come work with me for a while. Come to my work. I'll pay you. I'll pay you to be my assistant. We'll see what you think of this. Um, I don't know about you, but like the big one for me is like I have done over the years a number of like celebrity events and things like that. People are like, "Oh, isn't that cool? Like, what, did you talk to them?" I'm like, no, you're not talking to them. You're the photographer. You're like, I mean, occasionally, yes, I have like been able to like somebody has said something to me, so I respond. It's not like we're having like a conversation unless I'm doing portraits of somebody, then it's a little bit more one on one. But at events, I'm certainly not like going, "Hey, how's it going?" Like it's usually I'll get one line in with somebody if we have to do like a VIP like portrait or something like that. Like I might say something there, like as we're trying to like lighten the mood. Um, but otherwise, it's like people. It's not. It's not that glamorous. It's not jet setting, unless you're like I don't know. Maybe there's another level of this that is that's different. But for in my 26 years, 25, 26 years of experience, it's generally less glamorous than people might think it is.
I totally agree. And I think that's something that I'm passionate about highlighting because I think you need to kind of know this stuff. You don't need to know the stuff per se, but you need to be aware that there is all this stuff, and you will not just be taking photos, especially in the beginnings. You might get to a point in your career. I think it's possible you can delegate a lot of your stuff. You have such a big organization, or you have such a big business that allows you to actually free up your time to shoot more, to do anything very creative that nobody else can do in the organization.
Right.
And then you can delegate other stuff that are relatively easy to learn. Because let's be frank, and that's actually one of the reasons why I thought I had a shot at becoming a photographer, is that I think I realized early on that photography was not the actual taking photos was not the only important part, because I didn't think I had the talent for I was doing engineering for 10 plus years, and I started to have this hobby, and it's like I don't have the talent. I thought, you need to be like a genius if you're a photographer. You need to have this you need to be crazy. You need to do drugs. You need to like you watch documentaries from different types of artists and even photographers, and I'm like, no, there's no way. But then I started looking into it, because as I was still doing engineering, I had the luxury of actually being able to study a little bit the industry of photography before jumping into it. And the opportunity to actually start slow and dipping my toes in the water for a very long time. before, because I didn't think I had the talent that is required. A photographer is supposed to be an artist, crazy artist, and I definitely was not that. So until I started watching, because I'm also interested in the photography. I was mastering that, lighting and all that, and gear. No, let's not get started on gear, because of course, it's like you have a good job, you have no family, you can buy gear.
Right.
It's like, that's the good part of, and then I started looking, observing, and it's like, okay, some of these guys and girls, they're like, wow, amazing stuff. Some others, they look super busy, but their images don't really move me. How can they be so busy? I mean, and then I ask other people, pros, and like, yeah, that's right. Those are not crazy good images. So I was like, maybe there's a little more than just being good at images. Maybe you just need to be good enough. And then there's a lot of hidden, there's a the part of the iceberg that we don't really see, that maybe is a lot easier to learn. Maybe you don't need to have this innate talent, and either you have it or you don't. And if you don't, there's nothing you can do. Maybe the biggest part of the business actually is stuff that you can actually learn is relatively easily.
Yeah.
So that was my.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it's a conversation I've had many times, including on this podcast. I don't know if you know who Rob Hall is. He does a lot of reviews of lighting gear and stuff, and we had talked, and he said there's a question somebody left me, like, oh, is skill as a photographer the only thing that's required to like be really successful? And he just started laughing, and he was like, no, I mean, if skill was the only thing that was required to be really successful, there would be a lot of people who are really successful photographers that are not in photography anymore. Um, that marketing yourself, like, I think there's like several different factors. Like it's um it's people's ability to market themselves and like network and get the jobs. Like you said, it's not always the most moving image. It also depends on like what type of photography, what niche you're in. A friend who does a lot of corporate work, and he's like, I don't have to create the most creative images, but I have to be consistent. I have to deliver on time. I have to be like, there's things that are required that are not on the level of artistic, expression, but they are, like there is a minimum skill level required, and the ability to run your business and like how you do things and follow the rules of whatever your corporate client has. That's like when it comes to weddings, a lot of it is, for weddings, is being able to sell yourself to the people who are who are hiring you. It's not always the person who creates the most interesting images. It's the person who can connect with like the couple who's getting married, and like that, or even like portraits. Same thing with family portraits. I assume it's the same thing, but like it's not always creating that something that's going to go in a museum. It's the being able to connect with these people on a level where they feel heard and seen, and they feel they can trust you. Unfortunately, there are people out there who are, can make themselves seem trustworthy, who aren't, or who don't produce the greatest images, but people like hire them because they just they're good at selling themselves.
Yeah.
I think there's that's why I think you'll see people who can last a long time in this industry. And that's the whole other thing, is longevity. Like, how do they maintain that longevity in this career, in the business of being a photographer? Part of it is having the funds and, available to yourself. Like, is it by like you kept making money regularly, or you came into it with a certain amount of money that you were able to spend on this, or having like some sort of other backing? But also, like, you're getting the jobs. It's people who get the jobs frequently are able to stay in the business, are able to stick it out and stay, keep the as a career, as opposed to this is something they did with 5 years of their life and then moved on to something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, it's out of the grind, just like doing work stuff and not being out taking pictures every day. That you know like you had said before, like there are times when you get to, and I've certainly interviewed people who are at that stage, um, who aren't doing the editing, who aren't doing the business part of stuff. They have a studio manager, and they have somebody who's dedicated to do their retouching and editing stuff because they've reached a certain level and they're able to afford to be able to pay people to do those things. And, then they can focus on doing just the creative tasks and focusing on those things that they probably enjoy more than doing the business side of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No question about it. I think if there's something that you want to do, I think it requires get to a point where there's such a large. I find it that when you try to hire people, even on a temporary basis, there's such a large training window. There's such a large effort, and I'm not talking even money now. Just finding the person, understanding if that person is able to do what you want, feeling that there's a chemistry, feeling that the person gets it, and that is a very expensive time-wise process. So I think it's if you're at the level and you have decided that's something you want to do and you want to invest the time, it's not something you just buy off of shelf. You
Right.
go on Amazon and purchase it. That's a very big difference compared to outsourcing other parts, where you don't need to, I'm outsourcing my tax returns. Of course, they just need my numbers, and then they do it. And there's no reason why I should be doing that.
Right.
Because if I enjoy doing that, I'll be
an accountant,
tax advisor. So I think that's been a hurdle for me. That's been a struggle. Every time I've tried to find people, probably I haven't looked hard enough. Probably that energy, that time that it takes, to do that. So what I'm trying to say in this very complicated way is that even when you have decided to invest and expand, or you can call it whatever, or offload, and outsource things, there's such an effort behind that, because I thought, I just go whatever, LinkedIn or any place where, you can hire people and find somebody.
Right.
And I think it's not that easy. I wish it was just like that. In the same way as I wish that you could just get a marketing agency and take care of all your marketing. It's not just the money. Definitely the money is a part, but it's like,
time. Yeah.
Are you getting the right persons?
Yeah.
I'm going through this process now because I'm trying to find video editors for my social media content and all that. I mean, forget the money. Just understand, even though, I'll give you 1 month for free. Yeah, sure. It's going to cost me probably a full week of work just to evaluate you with the free month that I'm getting.
Right.
So it's not dollar amounts. It's not even that at this point.
It's your time and energy.
That I think is totally, that I was not expecting. Even after I started, even after I realized all the grind and all the hidden, all the non-glamorous parts of the job, that part I would add it to the list of the initial things that we were discussing, because now it's coming to mind, because I'm realizing that, and I'm touching that with my bare hands right now in these months. That's really, really hard to find people that and paying people. I'm not talking interns, like professionals. Very, very hard.
Yeah, I think that's the reason. Like, I mean, I said it early on, like that I have trouble delegating, and I think that's part of that is 90% of the reason that I don't do it, is because I don't know that I can. It's not that you're not good at your job, even. It's that I don't know that I can entrust you with my business to know how to do this in a way that lines up with how I want it done. Like that you're going to be able to do it. And I've had many people who come to me like, oh, we can manage your social media. Like, no. Honestly, if anybody who's like familiar with my social media, both for the nerdy photographer or my business stuff, I speak in my own voice. And I challenge anyone to like, I joke about like AI a lot. Like, you can tell when people have like switched over to have AI write their captions for social media, because you just see a lot of the same phrases over and over and over again. And, my just my style of writing and my voice is very particular and specific, and I speak to my clients in a way, especially for for my work. Like, I know how to talk to photographers for this, like for the social media for the nerdy photographer stuff. I know how to talk to photographers. I know that's why many photographers have gotten into the business of being quote unquote educators. It's because they know how to sell to photographers to talk in a language that photographers understand. I talk to my photography clients in a way that they understand, like what I can, the value I can offer them, because I have those values in me as well. I can't like this. Somebody's not gonna like walk in here in a month and just be able to like talk like me to my clientele or my audience. It's just that's a big part of it. That's a big part of what I offer beyond my photography skills is like my knowledge of things and also just how I personally feel. That's very hard for me to the time and energy. I used to, I considered getting an like outsourcing my editing to someone for a long time, but they just couldn't get like they would throw out images that I would keep. Like I was saying, like you have to look at these images from not from a technical perfection standpoint, but for weddings is emotionally. Like there are emotional moments that are not technically perfect. And I currently use an AI color, which does like a first draft for me, and I can go back and review it. Which is the reason I use it is because it's sort of like it cuts some time down for me, and in the end, it's like that's good. It probably saves me a couple of hours per job, which adds up. But I can go back through there because it'll still do the same thing. It will like try to throw out an image that has immense emotional value, but is not like the most technically perfect photo. Yeah, and that's the problem I had with like trying to get uh, outside editors to come in and do stuff. And the thing for me also was, can I justify this as someone who's going to be doing this all the time? Because there were certain jobs. You're talking about video editing. This is not something that somebody else can come in and be able to like do all the time for me.
Yeah,
It's make
exactly.
more sense to like to take the time to try to train someone to do it, then pay them to do it, and then I'm not giving them work for like you know
Yeah.
2-3 weeks at a time, and they're working like they're not going to want to stick around with me
Yeah.
because I'm not going to give them enough work. So there's that sort of aspect to it as well that I struggle with, and saying like if you're going to try to put the effort into figuring out how to do this to edit in the style that I like, I have to train you to do that, and then you're not doing it often enough to make sense for you to do the job.
Yeah.
That's I want to be fair to everybody and make sure that they're getting enough out of it as well, not just like the money that would be coming in would be regular enough for them to
No, of course.
work for me. And yeah, my business is not so huge that it requires all this. I handle things on my own pretty well just because I've built the systems in.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah,
things
but
are
that's
automated.
yeah, it's exactly what I was saying is like you need such a large the step is so big, that at the bottom there must be a very big business
Yes.
because the step is so big. It's not enough to have just enough money, as I said. That's not the point. It's like you need to be able to, okay, I can outsource this. And it's going to take some months before this agency takes care of everything, and then we'll learn my tone of voice and all that. Fine, we're talking massive amounts of time and money
Right.
that goes into that. So that means that the business is also massive, and I'm not even sure that a lot of people would want that.
Right.
Like, do you want a massive business? Would you want to create an organization or not? That's an open question, and that's very personal.
Yeah.
That's
That is a case by case basis. Like everybody reacts
exactly.
that differently. There are some people who are like, because then as you're taking, here's the I think it's a double edged sword in a lot of ways because you take away having to do the editing or the whatever part of the job, but then you've added in now you have to manage those people, and you've there's a whole other job that
Ah,
you've just created for yourself
exactly.
that takes
Exactly.
up your
So
time.
I think that's a good way to see it. It's like, okay, so I'm saving 50% of my time. I'm adding 50%, and then I'm removing 45.
Right.
So basically, I'm adding, I don't know, just a stupid example, but you need to look at that, because you think that, oh, I'm saving so much time. And then you say, okay, but now your time needs to go into something else. Maybe you're still net positive, which is, it's great, but maybe you're not so much net positive as you were hoping.
Right.
And maybe your mind is actually more congested with stuff that you're not used to doing, because now you're managing people.
Right.
It's like, it's so complex.
It's a different skill set.
It's like,
and like we said, it vary from person to person, because I think some people probably are natural managers, like people who can manage other people, just feel and feel more comfortable doing that than doing like the other technical jobs, which you could have like outsourced to someone else. And I'm a fan of like, finding, if you can find a system or a way to outsource your work that works for you, do it. Like it's generally worth the money if you can like literally send it out of your studio or whatever you do and have someone else do it, or find a system. Like if you don't have client relationship management software, get it. Like just like get something, because it'll save you so much time and energy in managing all of your stuff. And like we were talking about bookkeeping at the end of the year, it's like I use CRM software, and it's like at the end of the year now I can just I run a function, and in like less than a minute it's got all of my expenses in a spreadsheet. And just because I've added them up, I go through and I spend my half an hour each week typing in all my expenses and all my, the income is already there. Like it's already like managed by like the system. So it's like, that's something that took away what would have probably over the years would have been one of those things I considered I needed to have somebody to do that stuff. But now it's like, it's just because of the systems that are in place, it handles all that work for me and takes a huge part of the business side, like kind of off my plate. I don't have to devote so much time to it. It's all those things. There's, I'm also considering like,
I totally agree. Even
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I think you broke up for a second.
I was saying that I've been considering for a while, like, and I do offer wedding videography as part of, my packages for wedding. And I do all the editing, and I'm like, that is something I could farm out to someone else as long as we get the style down, because it takes me so much time to do it, because it's not naturally my thing to do. I can do it and I'm good at it, but it's like, this is something I could definitely farm out to someone out of house, who does this on a regular basis for probably, a dozen other people. So they're not like worried about the irregularity of the work coming in, that they can do it and, take that off of my plate. And I would have many more hours to spend on doing the things that are of the hierarchical level, like for me, where my mind should be on a more regular basis.
Yeah, I agree. I got this image in my mind of, overlapping circles. I think that, the stuff that is not overlapping with your interests, you should not try and overlap it. You should actually push it away and get somebody or app or whatever AI do it or figure out the way so it doesn't take your energy and time. Because I mean, for me, that reflects right back into anxiety, just right back, because then I feel like there's no joy. And then every single when there's no joy for one reason, then every single thing you see, it's gray and dark. It's like if you start from a positive standpoint, and you start, then it's like, okay, small stuff, I can do it easy. When you start from a negative standpoint, then the little things that are probably stupid, you could do it in a heartbeat. They go, I have to respond to that email, oh my god. It's like, so those kind of dynamics, they're really important to be aware of.
It colors how you see everything. So if you overload yourself with the sort of the things you hate doing, that you're just going to end up resenting your entire job. And listen, this is for people who are listening to this. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I find myself maybe like every 5 years getting to that place of where I'm like, it ebbs and flows, because like I let it go I let something go probably every 5 years that gets me to the point of being in that position where I'm like, oh, what am I doing? And then I'm go, oh, it's because I haven't been dealing with this, or I have been spending too much time on something. This is never like you're going to have it perfectly figured out. I think is what I'm trying to say. Like you will find points in time if you're doing this long enough where you start to sit there and go, oh, I don't like doing this part anymore. Something you may have enjoyed doing 5 years ago, you don't enjoy doing anymore. So you need to like
Absolutely.
be able to adapt to that and figure out like a new way of doing things. Otherwise, like you said, it colors every other thing that you do and makes you not enjoy those things.
Yeah, but also the thing is you can't know in advance, so you need to accept that that's going to happen. And as long as you are aware of what's going on and you adjust, then I think it's no problem. But if imagining that or having this ambition to never get into those 5 years, intervals where you need to reevaluate, it's crazy. It doesn't work that way. Things you need to do things bottom up.
Right.
There's no way you can dictate from the top down. What's going to happen, and so I think that awareness is also very important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll never start.
Right.
For
you
me,
don't
it was
start
like
at the top.
yeah, no matter how you want to define the top, you cannot figure out things, in advance,
right?
Because they just haven't happened.
Yeah, like, you haven't been there yet. I think that's one of those things that also I think troubles a lot of people who are starting out in photography as a business is because they want to like, okay, I took a business class and I took this and I know exactly. You don't know until you're there, really. But I think as we're kind of like getting on the back end of this discussion, one of the things that I tell people is that and I think that it's something that's become much more prevalent with Gen Z, younger millennials, especially, even some older millennials. Like about like my wife, uh, who will sometimes like get really involved in a hobby and be like, "Oh, I got to sell this. I got to find a way to monetize this." And people who enjoy photography as a hobby feel the need to monetize it in some way and make it into a business. You, we're not trying to gatekeep here and trying to tell people not to get into photography as a business, just to understand that there is a lot more that goes into being a professional photographer and running this as a business than there is to just doing something you enjoy and like setting up maybe you set up an online art thing if you want to sell some of your work. That's fine. If you want to sell it, set up a gallery and do that, but you don't necessarily have to make it your business because it ends up. I think that, and again, one of the things that I've dealt with in doing this for a very long period of time is there are times when I'm like, I didn't at times enjoy taking pictures anymore. There are times when it just became so much of a job, and to get my camera out, and like I'm going to go somewhere with my camera and take pictures of something just for fun became like it was a job because all I could think about was this is what I do for a living. So it became very difficult, and they had to do different things to kind of like break out of that feeling. I would go on a hike with my dog and take my film camera with me and shoot one roll of film while we were out on a hike. So this is for me. I am not instantly able to see what these photos are. I'm gonna have to wait to see what these photos are going to be. This is just for me and just for fun, and I don't have to. This isn't for anybody else. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got
Love
my
it.
yeah. This is one of my film cameras. Like, we're showing off our film cameras, viewers at home. It's just stuff you do for your own enjoyment. Like people ask me if I still shoot film for clients, and I'm like, only if you're paying a very large extra fee, just because it's become more economically sense to shoot digitally for work. But yeah, I had to find ways to make photography fun again.
Yeah.
Like it was something that I used to do, like that. Oh, this is just I'm really enjoying myself. I'm getting out here and like doing this thing that I love to do. And there are times when you're running this when you're running your business that it just feels like it's a job. It's not fun.
Yeah. And guess what? Even deciding to take your camera, if your camera and going out, okay, it's gonna be like an effort in the beginning, because when you're, you don't feel like taking photos, that you have that thing that is gonna give you joy. So maybe, but the first times when you don't really know what to do to get that joy back, even that's gonna require some effort, some powering through, because I've been stuck myself, several times, and it's like, what do I do? Now I know I have my tricks, because I know what helps. Sometimes it helps very easily, very fast. Sometimes nah, that's not helping this time. But then you also have changed the dynamics in your mind. You've changed the energy. You've changed your perspective, and then maybe you don't even need to actually shoot that roll of film.
Right.
And so that's interesting. Yeah, that's something that I tell people a lot. It's like the fact that, because some people ask me, so it's like, or especially friends and family who know me for a while, it's like, but if you went back, would you do it again? It's like, I had a and I'm saying very comfortable life, doing engineering in Sweden, super livable country, and great job, plenty of opportunities. So it was super comfortable. And it's like, yeah, asking the thing for me is not to have regrets. So the decision I made, I knew it was the right one to get me out of a position where 10 years down the line I would have regrets. So that's the only thing I consider, not the success, or I don't want to have regrets, so I'll try it. But I tell people, it's like, it's not your self-worth doesn't need to be any less if you decide that, what, I have a lot of fun using all the money I make on my regular job to buy gear and to go and take courses and become a master and never sell a photo or anything. Right. So much fun. There is nothing that is more valuable than just realizing that and accepting that. It's like, your work is like 40 hours a week, 40, yeah. And then you still have quite a few hours left, every day and all weekend. So that's why I'm like, I'm the first one to tell you, it's like, hey, if you believe you want to try something, you should definitely try it. But, don't feel bad if you realize down the line, even after 5 years, you realize, hey, you know what?
This really isn't for me. Yeah. This is something that I used to enjoy and don't enjoy anymore. Like because it's because of the business connection to it. Yeah. Feel free to try it. Like I'm not like, I want to reiterate that we're not trying to say like, don't do this. Like, don't become a photographer. Just understand that, like you need to, I don't know, have the understanding in place ahead of time for yourself that you may not enjoy doing it as a business, and it's okay to not enjoy doing it as a business. I've been doing it as a business for over 2 decades, and there are times when I still like go like, what am I doing? And like, do I want to keep doing this? And every time I do that, I do like a serious introspective thinking about it, and I go, yeah, I still want to do this. There are the parts of this that I really, really, really love to do. There's the working with clients and being of service to people that I really love. And there are also times when I'm able to use my skills to help out charities and other things that that is use my skills as an event photographer, things that I've learned, through doing this professionally to help people or like point them in the right direction to find some way to like further a cause that I like. That just makes me feel great. And those are wonderful things. It's I think that you need to go into it. I certainly didn't, with the understanding that, there are going to be times that are going to be hard, and it's okay if you don't want to keep doing it, or if you just enjoy doing it as a hobby and just enjoy it. You don't have to monetize it. You don't have to. Yeah. It's not a requirement. I think that there's a lot of, and I get into this like in a lot of different things. I have friends who like to enjoy doing various creative things as hobbies, from performing arts, visual arts, crafting, all sorts of like woodworking. And there's just this sort of immediate turning to, how do I monetize this? You're like, you don't have to. You can just let that be your hobby. It's okay. Like You don't immediately need to turn it into a money making endeavor. I mean, there's a point where you might get to and you go like, you know what? I don't like what I'm currently doing as a job, and I really want to like give this thing that I enjoy doing, a shot. Sure, like, don't sell yourself short from that. But if you enjoy what you do and you happen to like photography or whatever other creative endeavor you do, just as a hobby on the side, you don't have to feel the need to
Yeah, absolutely.
make money at it.
And who knows how things develop. Maybe you just realize that going from employee to
Being the
self
boss.
or freelancer, maybe you realize, what, photography is not for me, but I really like that I don't have a boss. I really like to decide for myself. So maybe there's something I can do that is not photography, but I know what I've learned is that no, I don't want to be an employee.
Yeah,
Maybe that's the outcome of it. And wow, great, amazing. It's just,
you've learned something about
so
yourself.
that's the most valuable thing, because
Yeah,
that's gonna create a foundation for going in the direction that is more suited to your personality and needs
yeah.
and everything.
Your needs as a human being. And even if you get into photography professionally, one of the things I always recommend to people is whatever niche you're in, find something that you like to do photography wise that has nothing to do with making money. Even if you do decide to do this, like find the like that helps you avoid that sort of, it's all about work. That's one of the things that I've put in the toolbox, is to find like there are things I enjoy taking pictures of. I'm never going to sell this. I'm never going to try to sell it. I'm never going to.
Yeah.
And then people will be like, "Oh, you should like start." Nope, it's just for me. It's not for anybody else. It's not going on social media. Just for me. Don't care.
Yeah.
Maybe my wife, my friends, my family might see the photos that I put up in my office or in my house, whatever. But otherwise, it's not for general consumption. Hey there, Nerdy Photo Crew. There's one thing you should never be caught without as a professional photographer, and that's a good contract, both for dealing with your clients and dealing with subcontractors that you may work with along the way. Be sure to head over to nerdyphotographer.com and go to our shop and find our contract templates for portrait photography, event photography, wedding photography, as well as dealing with second photographers, associate photographers, and any other subcontractors that you might have. Check it out and keep your business safe. Are you ready to take your website design to the next level? Look no further than Elementor, the cutting-edge WordPress website builder designed for professionals like you. With Elementor, you have the power to create entire website themes and layouts that are as unique as your imagination. Say goodbye to rigid templates and constraints. Elementor empowers you to design custom headers, footers, pages, posts, archive pages, and even WooCommerce product pages, all from a single user-friendly platform. The best part? You don't need to be a coding wizard to use Elementor. Say farewell to the days of wrestling with complex code or being dependent on a myriad of plugins. Elementor offers you a seamless, code-free design experience that puts you in control. So why limit your creativity? Choose Elementor and unleash your website design potential. Elevate your online presence with a website that truly represents your vision and brand. Get started with Elementor today. Just go to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/Elementor and witness the transformation of your WordPress web design experience. It's time to build an extraordinary website with ease and finesse. Don't wait. Create with Elementor.
Hey, hey, hey! And now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death.
Francesco, did you know that Cleopatra's reign is closer in time to the moon landing than it was to the building of the pyramids?
Oh wow, no, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's a kind of one of those things. Like I love history. My wife and I are huge history buffs, but it's like thinking about the perspective of history. Like I always think of like, oh, must have been around the same time period. Nope. She was, late Roman Empire, not late Roman Empire, but around like Caesar time. So, but that's still like 2,000 years removed from when the pyramids were built, which is pretty crazy to think about. Yeah.
No, I had no idea, and I probably would have guessed wrong.
If that was on a Jeopardy question, you would have not gotten it correct. Francesco, thank you so much for being on. Like, where can people find you? Where can they find you on social media?
Your website? Find me online, first name, last name, Francesco Sapienza, either .com or on Instagram. And if you Google Francesco Sapienza in your city, you'll find I'll be top ranked up there, and probably the first one, because there are no other Francesco Sapienza in your city. So I'm always happy to help as much as time to do it. I always respond to any questions. It just might take longer time sometimes, and less time other times. It just depends on the workloads and the life loads.
How life's going. Yeah, I'll put those links.
But I'm happy. I'm happy to help. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I'll put those links in the episode notes as well, so that if people want to like check those and like find your website, your social medias, they can head there. Francesco, thank you so much for being on. Absolutely, come back if there's something you want to talk about. Love to have you back on again.
Yeah.
But do we consider maintaining the ship's reactor an office expense? Because it is, for all intents and purposes, my mobile office. Oh, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed my talk with Francesco Sapienza. Be sure to check the episode notes for Francesco's links and socials and give him a follow. And be sure to follow The Nerdy Photographer on social media at The Nerdy Photo on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Reddit. That's at The Nerdy Photo. All one word, no underscores, dashes, or dots. What did you think of this episode? Please leave your comments on social media as well as your questions or topics that you'd like to see or hear in future episodes. Yeah, I know. Back to the grind. Until next time, everyone, stay safe and stay nerdy.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.